Weaponizing law and silencing dissent, a deepening crisis in Manipur. Introduction. In a strongly worded press release dated May 17, 2025, the Kuki Organisation for Human Rights Trust, Kohur, raised serious concerns over the recent registration of an FIR against Mr. Paoakhlup Guite, the current president of the Kuki Students Organization, Delhi and NCR, by the Manipur Police. The organization condemned the move as arbitrary, discriminatory, and part of a broader pattern of ethnic persecution against the Kuki community in the state of Manipur. The statement reflects the growing unease among Kuki civil society regarding what it perceives as state-sanctioned misuse of legal instruments to silence voices of dissent, particularly those that speak up against perceived injustices and violations of community rights. This development comes amid escalating ethnic tensions in Manipur, where violence, institutional bias, and loss of public faith in the justice system have reached alarming proportions. Context in the event in question. The controversy centers around a recent speech delivered by Mr. Guite in Churachandpur. In his address, he expressed concern that the upcoming Shirui Lily Festival, scheduled to take place in Ukhrul, could be a covert attempt by certain Métis organizations to encroach upon areas demarcated as buffer zones. His statement, which was reportedly grounded in documented territorial disputes and communal sensitivities, emphasized the need for transparency and restraint to avoid inflaming ethnic sentiments. Following this speech, several Kuki civil society groups issued clarifications, stating there was no organized opposition to the festival itself. However, this assurance did little to stem the tide of legal action that followed. Kohur argues that the filing of an FIR against Mr. Guite is not merely a response to his speech, but a deliberate attempt to suppress Kuki voices that question or challenge dominant narratives, selective justice, and a double standard. At the heart of Kohur's critique lies the issue of selective enforcement of the law. The press release explicitly compares the legal treatment of Mr. Guite with that of Professor N. Premananda, who had earlier made televised statements inciting hate by branding Kukis as terrorists and allegedly calling for their extermination. Despite the inflammatory nature of Professor Premananda's speech, no legal action has been taken against him. This selective application of justice, Kohur argues, reveals a deeply troubling bias within the law enforcement machinery. It suggests that incitement to violence against the Kuki community is tolerated or ignored, while any critical commentary or resistance from Kuki leaders is met with swift prosecution. Such asymmetrical responses not only delegitimize the rule of law, but also entrench ethnic divisions, institutional bias, and erosion of trust. The press release points out that the Honorable Supreme Court of India has, in several judgments, acknowledged the breakdown of law and order in Manipur and noted the public's growing mistrust of state institutions. Kohur references numerous documented instances of ethnic violence in which perpetrators have escaped justice, highlighting the beheading of David Thieck as one such example where impunity prevails despite the brutality of the crime. This ongoing failure to deliver justice to the victims of ethnic violence, especially when they belong to the Kuki community, reinforces a sense of marginalization and systemic discrimination. According to Kohur, the state machinery appears to be complicit, either through active bias or willful inaction, in protecting those who commit atrocities while criminalizing those who seek accountability. Legal, moral, and political failure. Kohur categorizes this selective persecution as more than a legal lapse. It is described as a moral failure and one of the primary catalysts of the current ethnic strife in Manipur. When state authorities harass, intimidate, or prosecute individuals along ethnic lines, it escalates tensions and fractures any existing efforts toward peace and reconciliation. The broader implication is clear. Unchecked criminalization and vilification of the Kuki community by state actors contribute directly to the deterioration of communal harmony. Such actions feed into a cycle of violence and resentment, making reconciliation an increasingly distant goal. Weaponization of the police. A particularly serious allegation made in the press release is the weaponization of the police force. The document warns that law enforcement, when used as a tool for political and ethnic persecution, undermines democratic governance at its very core. The implication is not only that Kuki individuals are being targeted, but also that the principles of natural justice and due process are being systematically violated. By acting under the guise of maintaining public order while selectively targeting a specific ethnic group, the state risks dismantling the foundations of a pluralistic democracy. The use of police power to silence critics, intimidate community leaders, or suppress dissenting narratives strikes at the heart of constitutional rights and civil liberties, a call for justice and resistance. Kohur concludes the press release by reaffirming its commitment to resist these oppressive practices through constitutional and legal means. The organization emphasizes that such attempts to harass or prosecute Kuki leaders will not go unchallenged and will be met with firm resistance grounded in legal recourse. It also reiterates that any further attempts to intimidate members of the Kuki community will be exposed and opposed through appropriate legal measures. Kohur's stance is not just defensive, but assertive, aimed at restoring a sense of justice, dignity, and equality before the law for the Kuki people. Broader implications for Manipur and India. The issues raised by Kohur speak to a larger malaise within the state apparatus in Manipur. The ethnic fault lines in the region are not new, but the intensification of violence and the apparent complicity of law enforcement bodies has pushed the situation to a dangerous brink. Without credible and impartial institutions, the prospects for peace, coexistence, and justice are grim. This moment calls for a renewed commitment from the state and central governments to uphold the Constitution, guarantee equal protection under the law, and take concrete steps to address the grievances of all communities, especially those who have been historically marginalized or targeted. India's democratic fabric is tested in such crises. If the rule of law bends to majoritarian pressures or ethnic favoritism, it risks unraveling the secular and pluralist ethos enshrined in the Constitution. The path forward must involve not only legal accountability, but also a genuine dialogue among communities, facilitated by unbiased institutions and guided by the principles of justice, fairness, and humanity. Conclusion. The Kuki Organisation for Human Rights Trust's press release is more than a protest. It is a sobering indictment of institutional failure and a heartfelt appeal for justice. It compels us to ask difficult questions about the nature of power, the impartiality of legal institutions, and the future of communal harmony in Manipur. As the situation continues to unfold, the voices calling for justice must not be drowned out by silence or suppressed through legal intimidation. India's democracy depends on its ability to listen, reflect, and reform, and the time to act is now. Disclaimer. This article is based on a press release issued by the Kuki Organisation for Human Rights Trust, Kohur, on May 17, 2025. The views expressed in the original document are those of the organization and do not necessarily reflect the views of Zalengam Media think tank. We present this article in the public interest to foster informed discussion and uphold the principles of transparency, accountability, and human rights.